I love that. Changing the reference system requires sustained, meaningful experience. All right,
Yeah.
so we have talked about two of your myths, and I'd like to hit the rest of them because I think they're fascinating. We've talked about this one that culture starts at the top. So yes, the top has a lot to play, but it's much bigger than just what the top does.
Mhm.
And then I think you said that culture is not analogous to the values, and you say culture is not a physical thing, that it's not a box you can manipulate. It's not an input and an output or a causal sequence. It's the habits and practices, not the objects and the symbols. I like that statement. Let's tackle this one that says one company, one culture. I
Yeah.
think I know what you're going to say now, but let's go for it.
Well,
Why
yeah,
that one?
one company, one culture. Um, Cognitive anthropologists like to talk about culture as kind of atomic particles,
Mm-hmm.
or DNA is another metaphor. Or one anthropologist talks about, like the little tadpoles in a little tide pool.
Mm-hmm.
There are many. If you think about culture as a reference system, then you think about what anchors a reference system, or how do you decompose a reference system. Cultures are made up of these sort of fundamental units. I call them dominant logics. Other people call them schemas, cultural schemas. Other people call them mental models, shared mental models. But they're these sort of atomic, small bits of mental representations, pre-verbal, that that are the DNA, or the compositions of your reference system. These are the sort of pre-conscious patterns that we bring, that are the formations of culture. These, again, the easiest way I think about it is dominant logics.
Right.
The best example is, a lot of manufacturing companies, a lot of our industrial clients have dominant logic centered around the idea of certainty, which is really minimizing risk, like making certain that no risks will ever be taken, because the
Right.
nature of manufacturing, especially industrial manufacturing, is the cost of failure very high, right?
Right.
So you don't ship beta versions of refrigerators, right? You can't just make a mistake on a refrigerator or air conditioning unit or a pump or a jet engine. These are
Right.
costly errors, right? So certainty, or this idea of certainty, or this mental model of certainty, becomes very, very important. So my point is, the idea of certainty pervades, or can show up in patterns throughout your organization and throughout your practices, throughout your habits, throughout your routines, throughout your pronouncements, throughout everything that you do is imbued with this sort of idea of minimizing risk. So as a kernel or atomic structure of culture, this idea of minimizing risk can show up in multiple ways. So there's no one culture in an organization. Let's reframe that question to say, what are the dominant logics or the atomic particles that make up our reference system? And then we begin to see that there are many of them,
Mm-hmm.
and there are many, and you can recombine these bits and pieces of logic into different broader combinations to create different reference systems. And then you see that organizations are really made up of a lot of atomic particles, which are giving rise to logics and practices by which you run your business. It's a bit of a complicated answer, but I'm just trying to change the frame from culture as a monolithic black box that somehow characterizes your company, to culture as a series of atomic particles that are used in different combinations to form these reference systems, or these systems of logic by which we make sense of the world. And I say logic not in the formal logic like
Right.
rationalizations, idealizations, sense making. It's
Sense
it's
making.
really it's really
Right.
Carl Weick's idea of sense making
Okay.
applied in the culture sense. Yeah.
This is it's reminding me of a CEO that I worked with a number of years ago on a large global firm, and he wanted one culture. He wanted to walk into any office of that company anywhere in the world and
Yeah.
have it feel the same. He would even use the phrase, I want the DNA to feel the same. Now, I think they probably got as far as making sure the furniture is the same. And in fact, I would argue I could walk into any building anywhere in any city in the world and tell you which one of those belonged to this particular company because of
Right.
the way in
Right.
which it was decorated and looked and all that kind of routine. So, okay, yes, I get that. But that's in the symbols in space. But if I
I
think
would say
about,
furniture I think does have, I mean, it does, physical layout has something to do with it, right? Because
yeah,
it will pattern or delimit some of the choices that you and I can make, right?
right,
Type of desks that we sit at, whether we sit in cubicles or offices. I mean,
sure,
that will shape mental process over time, for sure. But it's not enough, to your
It's not
point.
enough. It's not enough. And then I think about talking with the people who were running various offices, let's say in smaller countries, in far-flung places from headquarters, where the comment would always be, yeah, but it doesn't work that way here. We can't have that habit or practice because of the size of the market we're in, the legal practices in the market, the way we go to market here versus how you go to market in another country, a whole host of factors that always struck me as legitimate business challenges.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is they have to have it because they have a different set of practices. It is not going to have an identical feel of the culture. It's going to have some elements, but not the same. Is that
We absolutely, my partner in crime at Ontos, Lisa Koss, and I, because we work mostly with global firms, encounter this every single day.